You ever think about getting some wood, about working on a project, maybe building something? Maybe you're thinking about building a little building like this. Or maybe something like this goat barn back here. That's a sheep, by the way. Or a chicken coop. Or a house for your ducks. Or maybe working on a project like this. Alright guys, Papa Pepper here at the Abundant Harvest Homestead. In this video I'm going to talk about how you can get loads of lumber like that or something similar and never pay full price again. I want you to look at these for a minute and realize just a couple months ago I could have got a whole bundle of wood like that. My price was 150 bucks for that much wood. Okay, I've got two of them here and price has actually gone up a bit. But if you look at these, that's a lot of wood. Can you imagine buying this much wood for 300 bucks? That used to be how I did it. Prices have went up a little bit. I got to get this unloaded first, but as soon as I get this unloaded, I'll teach you this tip and show you how we do that around here. About 50 minutes, we got one bundle done. On to the next one. The time is an hour and 40 minutes. So it may take some time to unload. It's a lot of boards. I'll talk about all this in a second, but first I gotta get this truck and trailer back to my friend, and then we'll get into this thing. Basically, in the course of life, and especially when you're trying to do a lot of things for yourself, like a lot of homesteaders do, you have an amount of infrastructure you want to put up. You have an amount of buildings, outbuildings, animal shelters, different pens, whatever it may be. And lumber comes in handy. If you buy everything at your local like hardware store or Home Depot, Lowe's, something like that, you are going to be out a pretty penny. Now I'll tell you what, sometimes you want a pressure treated or a heat treated board. Sometimes you're going to need, you know, a 20-foot 2x4, whatever it may be. I get that. But a lot of times you can get by with something just like some rough cut oak like I've got here. So what I do is I cut out the middleman. Anytime you're going to a store, you got to pay for every step of the way. Every step of the way. You're paying for the person at the checkout, the person who's wandering the aisle saying, "Did you find everything okay?" You're paying for the electricity of that building. You're paying for whatever trucker drove it there, for the insurance of the trucking company that brought it there, for the gas. You're paying for the person out in the woods cutting it down. You're paying for the person at the sawmill. You're paying for the guy sorting it. You're paying for the guy loading it. So the more of those guys you can cut out, okay, they're going to be fine. They get a paycheck, you know, from everyone else doing things. But you don't need to support every single one of those people every time. Sometimes it makes sense where a guy cuts down the trees, somebody loads them onto the trailer, somebody drops them off at the sawmill, they run it through, they sort it, and it's sitting there at the sawmill. And when you can pick up that wood and cut out all those other middlemen, you're going to wind up in a much better situation if you're trying to find just the best deal, the most bang for your buck. So with a lot of my projects, this stuff's going to get me by just fine. A number of my buildings, if you saw, are board and batten. So So what I'll use is I'll use a big board. Like, check out this guy here. That's a big, beautiful board. What is that? About 10 inches wide, about 9 feet long. That'll work good. And if I butt that up against another big board, and then take a skinny board, run it over the crack, that's my board and batten. And the cool thing is, a lot of times, I can go that many feet, you know, 8 or 9 feet tall. We got almost, 20 inches wide for $3. You know, that is a cheap, great way to do it. Now this stuff here happens to be the 3B lumber. It's a subpar lumber. It's gonna have things like these cracks. I'll show you a couple different things. It's sometimes gonna have cracks. It's gonna have the rough edges right off the trees. Maybe a piece is missing. Maybe one of them is flipped up like that there in the middle. It's cracked, okay? There's something up with it. Here's a big old beetle hole, probably. Here's a couple with some holes maybe straight through them. Another hole there. So for some reason, these were subpar. For some reason, these are getting put on their subpar level, and then you're able to get them for a discounted price. To me, these used to be $150 a load, and I would get over 150 boards for that price. Then they went up to $200. Right now they're at $225. That's up, you know, $75. I'm actually paying 50% more right now than I used to be. I would have been able to get 3 times as many, which would have been like that one there with these. Okay, here's one I've had sitting for a while. I've also got some cedar logs on there and a lot of scrap lumber I got for free. That stuff I've had spread out and drying for a while. If you saw, it took my kids over an hour and a half to stack this up like this. This is a green wood. This wood has not been around very long. It was cut down as fresh trees. They were brought in. They were sawn up. There's a lot of moisture in here right now. So to keep them straight and to get them dry, you're gonna need to stack them and have them when air can get in between each layer and then in between each board too. And you can notice too, I like to space these guys out so that way you don't have just one long solid section of constant board. I like to keep it spaced out to help them dry. If you use green lumber and you screw it all together and nail it all together, over time it'll bend, it'll warp, it'll pop your screws or your nails out sometimes, it'll put spaces and things that were once tight. So you gotta make sure if you're doing it this way and you're getting some green wood that you let it dry first. That setting sun's getting kind of bright, but with this stuff here, guys, I had to take about a 40-minute ride to get it. We were heading there anyway, so my friend's like, hey, why don't I just grab my trailer when we stop out in that area to check out this stuff? If you want a load of lumber, we can grab it. The guy asked if I only wanted one. They had multiple ones. Sometimes you got to call ahead and have him hold one back for you. But he was able to pull 2 of them on his trailer. So we loaded up 2 and we got them here. I wanted these to be on site and drying so that I can finish some of my projects even if prices do skyrocket, even if a quarantine of a massive effect goes into play, even if I'm not able to buy or sell as freely in the future, whatever it may be, I wanted these resources on my property. So this one happened to be, like I said, 40 minutes from my house, but there's a lot of sawmills around. If you drive through the country, sometimes you'll just see them. There'll be heavy machinery, there'll be piles of sawdust, there'll be all sorts of stacks of boards forever. Look through the yellow pages or do a Google search, find some sawmills in your area, and ask if they have some sort of subpar lumber. This stuff happens to be called 3B. I'm not even sure what that means. Maybe big bad boards. I don't know. They're not the best boards, so they're a subpar one, but they work great for a lot of stuff here. And the cool thing too is, living out here in the Ozarks, a lot of people like to have just a rustic look. So this is a great way to have a rustic look for cheap. You combine it with some of the natural rocks and other things in your property, it can look real rustic for a fraction of the cost that a lot of people are paying to get things done. So this is just one of those things I learned in my area. I hope that it helps you guys as you guys consider just how to live life for a fraction of the cost. It makes a lot of sense to me to do it this way. It's been a blessing to us to find out about it, and I wanted to share that information with any one of you guys out there who may be thinking about how do you build this. If you saw my one video how I built my goat house, you know, for less than $200 compared to buying like a little prefabricated little animal shelter. It's so cheap, it's so easy. It gives you the opportunity to do maybe even a family project, something with your kids. And I've learned a lot building. Not a builder, not a carpenter, but I've learned a lot of things over the course of building some of these different things. And it's all an education, it's all a good life. So if you guys liked this video, if it was helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you guys got some other good ideas, please leave them as a comment below. share that information with other people out there, and we'll see you next time. Papa out.